Hi, Egbert. Great to have you in the talk show today. I would like to ask you to just give us a brief introduction, who you are and what your company does.
My name is Egbert Sonneveld. I live in Spain, but I'm Dutch. I'm here with my wife, my Spanish wife, and we have a company called Blonk Quality Ingredients, where one of the main products we produce is teff. And that's what I do already now for more than 10 years. Before that, I used to work already 30 years in the ingredients business, in basically animal proteins. But we started a new life here in Spain.
And why did you decide to work with teff?
I was working with a dairy protein, whey proteins, and we started producing dietary products for sports and dietary nutrition. And they were looking for a blend of proteins with a gluten-free product ingredient with very good characteristics. So about 15 years ago, I came across teff, and it looked like a very good ingredient because it's well known by the top sports people. It's a very interesting grain for endurance sports people.
Yeah, so actually the grain is gluten-free. It's good for nutritional value. Is it also good for nature?
It's very good for nature. That's something we discovered here in Spain, that growing teff is good for everybody, for the farmer. It's a very interesting crop. It's good for the consumer, as we said, and it's good for nature because it has a very low need of water and of chemical products like fertilizers. So teff is really a good choice for everybody.
So I assume that you are part of a lot of product introductions. People are interested to use your ingredients. Are there any complexities when a company makes a decision to use your product into a new launch? Can you tell us a little bit about the complexity around that aspect in particular?
Well, first of all, we need the people to know about teff because it's relatively unknown by the developers, especially in the bakery industry. Where we have no problem to explain teff is to the original users of teff, that are the Ethiopian and Eritrean communities worldwide. They make a kind of pancake with it, and then they have a kind of fermentation process that is very important for them. So with those customers, we have no problems in asking what their needs are and what type of product they want to develop, because it's only one product that's called injera. If we go to the Western world, and we see that step by step people are trying to introduce teff in a recipe. Obviously, because it's a gluten-free ingredient, most of our customers are interested in the gluten-free aspect of teff, and then they discover the high nutritional values, etc. What also we see more and more is that it's simply used as a mainstream ingredient in breads and etc. because it's always a very interesting ingredient for its nutritional values. So,
but is it readily available?
No, it's not. It's definitely not plenty available. There are only a few companies or farmers in the world producing it. So we have to, for large volume customers, and for us, large volume customers is starting with truckloads, so 24 tons. And then we have to plan far ahead, those quantities. So we have to make our plans with our farmers here in Spain a year ahead. And that's the only way you can guarantee yourself the volumes of teff and with the quality that you need.
Okay, so if I would be a developer and I would love to use your teff ingredient, then I need to be sure to give to have enough time before I can launch it, because it's not sure if I want to launch it today whether you will be able to supply it.
If you're a large volume customer, that's the case, yes. Obviously, if we're talking pallet loads up to truck loads, then we always have enough teff in stock to launch the product, to do a first launch. But once we see that the product is successful, then we really recommend also the purchasing departments to come on board and say, look, this is what we will need next year. And we try to make some kind of contract, long-term contract. Otherwise, at this moment, for instance, there is not enough teff. So there are too many people now running out of teff, and they see, and you can see that it's not a commodity. You can't simply call someone and say, give me 5 or 10 truckloads of teff.
Yeah. Do you foresee actually that the volume of this particular grain type will grow in the coming years?
I'm convinced. Since since we work with One to Taste, I've always said with you guys, I want to double the volume we are doing now, and we can even do more than that. So we have plenty of capacity, and the story of teff is so good. So it can't be that the people will not discover it. So we are in a good position at the moment to with this fantastic new ingredient.
Yeah. And echoing also a little bit the conversation I had with Jos Vos from the Bakery Academy, was also working on different projects, and what you can see is that indeed in the bakery industry, health. But also gluten-free are important aspects, and in that sense, your ingredient is fitting perfect in that story, right? Do you see specific periods of the year where more products are launched? Do you see some logic there, or is it just the whole year through you're working on projects?
Well, in general, we all know that in the bakery business, summer is very weak. And in general, the demand is low, and I've never seen products launched in summer. This time of the year is much more interesting to launch new products. So that's one. We also see some very big bakeries, industrial bakeries, that are not necessarily interested in gluten-free bread, but they want to include now teff in one of their multi-cereal breads, and there I don't see a seasonality. These are the usual blue chip food bakery companies that we know that operate worldwide. But to be honest, they always work with 1 or 2% of the recipe is teff, so it's very, very low, but still then we are talking truckloads.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, Egbert, it's really interesting to hear your points of what you experience in your company. I'm very excited about teff as an ingredient, and I think it does have a very bright future. If I look what we see in One to Taste on specific go-to-market, from the decision to go to market and to actually launching, it is 122 days on average. If it takes longer, the chances are lower that it will end up in a new product launch. I think your experience is longer.
It's much longer because as I said, since people don't know it, the normal pattern is that we send the samples, And then they start playing with this. They do some quick and dirty testing on flavor and on smell and functionality. And then you see people coming back and saying, "Hey, can we do puff pastry with it? Can we do pasta with it? Can we do whatever?" So we still have to trigger the fantasy of the developers, and with that we do a great job with you guys. I mean, you have some very good people on board there that help us with that. But the frustrating part here is that it's taking far longer than 4 months, as I said.
Yeah. Yeah. So if I would wrap it up, it is important to, first of all, think about what your ingredients you want to use. And if it's an ingredient like teff, you need to make sure that you start in time and that you give proper prognosis on what you intend to start using in order to secure. Certainly, if you take truckloads, if it's smaller amounts, you can probably manage for a launch, but then when things pick up, you need to well in time inform your supplier, and in this case you, to assure the quantity that you need.
But Jasper, a last point maybe that is interesting to mention in the case of product development is that very often developers need specific characteristics of the product. So be it microbiological, be it the fineness of the powder, being a certain color, being it whatever. And there, of course, we have since we are a relatively small but very flexible company and very creative, we can do tailor-made ingredients for these customers. And the good thing is that if we agree on a certain number of tons of teff, we keep that grain in our stock the whole year long, and then whenever they need the product with their characteristics, then we are relatively quick in supplying those volumes and with those characteristics, and we are very consistent with the quality and the characteristics of that teff. I think that's a very important point to mention, especially talking to bakeries that don't like surprises in their recipes, etc.
Their supply chain, yeah. Well, that's a good addition, Egbert. I think that's also important for people to understand your flexibility in working the ingredients in different kind of specs.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to close it. Thank you very much, Egbert, and we'll be in touch, and for sure we'll be doing more business together.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.